Hello, everyone. Welcome to Teachly University. And in this lecture, we're going to be discussing the power of the subconscious mind. And this is really a topic that I'm passionate about because I believe understanding how we can use the subconscious mind can really help us make the difference between success and failure, or how to get better results in our business and personal lives and in our educational careers. And using the subconscious mind, I think, is really one of the best ways to help us change our behaviors for the better. And I want to start with a quote from Joseph Murphy, who said, "The first thing to remember is the dual nature of your mind. The subconscious mind is constantly amenable to the power of suggestion. Furthermore, the subconscious mind has complete control of the functions, conditions, and sensations of your body. Trust the subconscious mind to heal you. It made your body and it knows all of its processes and functions. It knows much more than your conscious mind about the healing and restoring you to perfect balance." So what Joseph Murphy is really alluding to here, and I focus on this part of the quote, he says, amenable, your subconscious mind is amenable to the power of suggestion. And if you think about it, every day we are exposed to or bombarded with content coming from social media, the news, pundits, from our friends and family, where we live in an information age where we're bombarded with information on a 24-hour basis. And chances are much of this information is negative. And when you look at the subconscious mind, and we'll be discussing what the subconscious is in a moment, but we have these unconscious behaviors and habits and ways of thinking that has been cemented through years of repetition, through repetitive thoughts and actions. And we have these involuntary reactions to our external environment that is caused based on our beliefs. And many of our beliefs, some of which are negative, we have many self-limiting beliefs, have been created through the power of suggestion, that over time we're exposed to so much negative information from our external environment that it creates these unconscious behaviors, some of which are bad, that can limit our growth. So we have this higher version of ourselves. There's a lot happening underneath the surface of our consciousness that is happening without us even realizing it. And again, what Murphy talks about, when you look at the functions of our body and how our body operates, we don't really think about our heart beating, but our heart beats without us even really being conscious of it, as well as other functions within our body. And that's that deeper, much more complex version of our mind in operation. And how we use it can determine our success in life. And Dr. Joseph Murphy, interesting character. He actually grew up in Ireland, where he was going to study to become a Jesuit priest, but he left the priesthood because he wasn't really happy with the Jesuits, or at least some of his views didn't really jive very well with the Jesuits. So he left Ireland and moved to the United States, where he became a pharmacist. And when World War II started, he joined the army and was a pharmacist in the military. But when he got out, he decided to abandon his career and began exploring Hinduism and Buddhism and other aspects of Christianity, where he eventually started his own church. And he actually got a PhD in psychology from the University of Southern California. But where Dr. Joseph Murphy really became known for was in his writing and his books, and his most prominent book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And in this book, really, I really consider it right up there with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's one of the most prolific personal growth books ever written, as far as I'm concerned. It really set the foundation for the New Thought field, which has grown in prominence in recent years. But it's a fantastic book that we're going to explore a little bit in this lecture. And what Dr. Joseph Murphy discusses in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind is that, and I've mentioned this in my other lectures, that we have these deeper mental faculties, this higher version of ourselves that we don't use enough, or at least use it the right way to build a better life and to learn more efficiently. And Dr. Joseph Murphy really discusses how when we use the subconscious mind to our advantage, it can profoundly change our life. And what is the subconscious mind? Well, the subconscious is a warehouse where all of the things we've learned and experienced are absorbed and held. Our personality is shaped by repetitive thoughts and behaviors that over time become personality traits cemented into our subconscious. Thus, many of the decisions we make on a daily basis are made without us even realizing it. So we have the conscious and the subconscious mind. And for many of you, you probably have heard both these terms used interchangeably or used often when you read a little bit on psychology, and perhaps maybe you've read some personal growth books where you've heard these terms. The conscious mind, to put it quite simply, is really our analytical mind. We use the conscious mind to filter out information, to reason. Like, for example, how I'm creating this lecture for you right now is using my conscious mind or my awareness, where I'm able to filter out information, organize it, and present it to you in a coherent manner. The subconscious mind, however, is a much more complex and deeper version of our mind, because in the conscious mind, we can only be aware of so many things in a given moment. Whereas in the subconscious, it is essentially a warehouse of all the memories and experiences and emotions that we've had that is stored in there. And if you remember when I talked about just a few moments ago, how Dr. Joseph Murphy is talking about the power of suggestion, that the content that we're exposed to can impact our unconscious behaviors and beliefs. There's a term that the brain is always listening. And what that means is that the subconscious, all the content that we expose ourselves to, most of which is bad, can actually impact our thoughts and behaviors without us even realizing it. So, and when you think about how we live our lives, so many of us live lives where we have so many responsibilities, from our careers and our families to trying to stay in shape to trying to maintain a social life. We're so busy that we develop these unconscious habits and behaviors. We do the same thing over and over again every single day. And oftentimes this can lead to frustration and disappointment because we keep doing the same things over and over again, but for some reason we don't improve our results in our education, in our business and personal lives. And there's a reason for that, because we've developed subconscious behaviors or self-limiting beliefs that can impact our way of life. And again, to refer back to Dr. Joseph Murphy, he says, all of your experiences, events, conditions, and acts are the reactions of your subconscious mind to your thoughts. Remember, it is not the thing believed in, but the belief in your own mind which brings about the result. Cease believing in the false beliefs, opinions, superstitions, and fears of mankind. Begin to believe in the eternal varieties and truths of life, which never change. Then you move onward, upward, and Godward. So what Murphy is talking about here is that many of the conditions and experiences and events that happen are based on our reactions from our subconscious mind, our beliefs and our thoughts. The decisions or what governs our decisions every day, much of which is subconscious programming or our paradigm or our beliefs. If we have empowering beliefs that, for example, you have beliefs that you can meet new and exciting people and that you're a sociable person and that you have the ability to develop new and exciting relationships, and you believe that with emotional intensity backed behind it, over time, through your thoughts and actions, moving in that direction of being more sociable, you can actually improve your social life. Same thing can be applied to finances. If your beliefs are that you can have the ability to make money, and that you have the ability to improve your finances, and you have the intelligence to make rational financial decisions that can increase your wealth, well, if you believe that through or with emotional intensity, you can improve your financial standing through the decisions that you make. But if you have disempowering beliefs that are subconscious, or that we do them without even realizing it, that can create negative experiences in our lives. And it's using that higher version of ourselves to make these changes. And again, many of the beliefs that we have were created without us even realizing it. It was done without much effort. So the same thing can apply to create empowering beliefs or changing the subconscious. It can be done without much effort as well, but it does require being aware of these self-limiting beliefs. And I want to refer to, in this slide, by Dr. Robert Glover. Now, he's a psychologist who actually deals with men's issues in dating, but in this excerpt here from his book, Dating Essentials for Men, it actually can apply to women as well, so don't think this is just for men. But in his book, he discusses why it is that men struggle so much with dating and why they struggle asking women out. And I think what his answer to that can apply to men and women and to various aspects of our lives and why we have these unconscious or self-limited beliefs. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Your mind believes your beliefs are true because you have always thought them. Because your mind strives for consistency, it finds plenty of evidence to support your beliefs. It ignores information that is contradictory. Many of your beliefs about yourself aren't necessarily true or accurate, but your mind believes them because it has repeatedly thought them. The subconscious now doesn't know the difference between what is real and what isn't. And a very good example is, let's say, for example, you're driving one day, or maybe you're just at home by yourself, or you're just doing something, and all of a sudden you remember an argument you had with your significant other. Even though the event already happened, your memory of it can create physical changes in your body. Maybe your heartbeat begins to beat faster, or maybe you start to breathe or you start to breathe faster, or your breathing changes, whereas if you're actually getting into an argument with somebody, even though the argument already happened. So the subconscious does not know the difference. And the same thing applies with these beliefs, that just because you believe something doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And these emotional beliefs are the DOS of your mental operating system. They are your machine language. Your thinking and reasoning rises out of and reflects your unconscious emotional paradigm. Your mind will always work to make sure your mental beliefs are consistent with the nonverbal emotional beliefs you internalized as a young child. So what Dr. Glover's discussing here is that many of the self-limiting beliefs we've created started off as children, because children are very impressionable. Remember, our brains aren't fully developed as children, so we absorb much of the information that we're exposed to, and we live in an imperfect world. And chances are many of us have experienced some sort of trauma growing up. And this trauma can vary in intensity. But one way, shape, or form, many of us have experienced trauma or disappointment or some other event that created these self-limiting beliefs that we carried over into adulthood. And it's this unconscious emotional paradigm or programs that can create problems and frustrations and disappointments in our lives because we keep doing the same things over and over again. They keep giving us the same result, and we don't know why. So how is it then that we can make changes to improve the way we learn, improve the way we think, and get better results in various aspects of our lives? And I think this is important because for me, being in education and being an entrepreneur and a realtor and really being a part of both worlds, both education and entrepreneurship, it's important that we understand how to use the subconscious or how to use our minds more efficiently so that we can improve our lives. If we don't know how to use our minds, then we end up becoming victims in a way. We become helpless. And that's the last position we want to find ourselves in, is this feeling of helplessness. We actually have much more power than we realize. Doesn't mean we can control everything in our environment, but we can control how we react to it. So to go back to Dr. Joseph Murphy, your consciousness is the watchman at the gate. Its chief function is to protect your subconscious mind from false impressions. Choose to believe that something good can happen and is happening now. Your greatest power is your capacity to choose. Choose happiness and abundance. The suggestions and statements of others have no power to hurt you. The only power is the movement of your own thought. You can choose to reject the thoughts or statement of others and affirm the good. You have the power how you react. So what Murphy is discussing here is a term in psychology called metacognition. And that means thinking about how you're thinking, which means that we can choose, we can decide what information that we can impress on the subconscious, or we can choose how we can react to circumstances, and we can become much more deliberate in moving towards the direction of what it is that we want. We have that choice, but we never realize that because, as I've mentioned, we do the same things over and over again every day, where we get involved in that rat race. And we've heard that term often before, that rat race, where we just It feels like no matter what we do, we can't change. But the reason why we feel we can't change is because we never bother to make new choices and decisions and entertain new thoughts and emotions that can perhaps change our lives for the better. So, metacognition is to think about how you're thinking. It's a way to regulate your behaviors and become much more deliberate about how you choose your experiences. You're no longer doing the same things over and over again every single day. You're making new choices. You're not talking to the same people anymore or talking about the same topics. It could start by even taking a different route to work, or perhaps even being more drastic and beginning to ask for a raise, or perhaps maybe you begin to exercise, or perhaps you become much more aware of certain thoughts and you begin to be deliberate in changing them. Just making some new choices can actually change the brain. And we've seen now in studies with neuroplasticity where even in an advanced age, the brain can change. But it all starts with the impressions that we place on our subconscious that can determine whether or not we change. So, how is it that we can begin to reprogram the subconscious or install new beliefs and help us make new decisions? Well, it starts with asking questions. We want to ask ourselves questions because, and I always, when I was a writing tutor, I always told my students to ask themselves questions whenever they were stumped with something, because their brain will usually come up with an answer. And that answer, if we act upon it, can actually help us make profound changes. What are some of the questions we can ask? So, well, some of the questions could be, how can I find a solution within this given problem? What can I do to feel like a genius today? Is another way I can look at a given situation. How can I feel more empowered? What ways can I find to generate wealth? And when you ask these questions enough times, and you can do this in a meditative state or even just taking a break from work for a couple minutes, when you ask yourself these questions, the brain can come up with an answer, and that's your subconscious and work. And there's a term called combinatory play. And what that means is that subconsciously, your brain is making connections with ideas or unrelated ideas from the images and sounds and memories that we've had or information we've been exposed to. That it makes these connections. When you ask it a question, it can come up with a solution through making connections with unrelated ideas. And in fact, there are many studies that show that the brain is just as active when it's resting than when it's consciously working on a given activity. So you can take two people, for example, one group that's consciously working on something like mental arithmetic or writing, and take another group that is just resting. And if you do an fMRI, where you do a brain scan of these two groups, you'll find that the group that is resting, their brains are just as active than the group that is actually consciously working on something. That tells you that there's so much happening beneath the surface of our consciousness. And to quote Scott Kaufman from his book Wired to Create, a fantastic book on creativity, which I recommend you read, reflecting on their biggest breakthroughs, many innovators have described elusive solutions as coming to them in a sudden flash of insight, while artists often describe their best ideas arising as it came out of nowhere. The unconscious mind is the governing force behind many of the myriad decisions we make each day, from the mundane what to eat for breakfast to the more impactful whether to quit a job. And this is so true because, as I've said before, the unconscious mind, our subconscious behaviors and beliefs govern our decisions that we make every day. And that is the mystery behind creativity, that in that subconscious mind where combinatory play is happening, we're making connections with these unrelated ideas, we somehow come up with a solution. When we use our gut instincts, when we allow our brains to work, and stop trying so hard maybe, we can actually come up with solutions to given problems or insights or flashes of insight and inspirations that, if we act upon them, can change our businesses, our careers, and our personal lives. We ask the right questions, we can come up with a solution that can create a great business or can improve in a relationship, or maybe we can be inspired to write a book, whatever that may be. But that is the mystery and the power of creativity. It is harnessing this intangible force that we have hidden within us. And I said before that there's a lot happening beneath the surface of our consciousness. We have a lot more power than we realize. And that's what Dr. Joseph Murphy is discussing here, is that we're using this intangible energy and this intelligence that we have, that we possess, that if we tap into it, can lead to profound changes in our lives. And it's within us if we decide to use it. And this is something that we're going to explore more in further lectures, as far as how we can use the subconscious to improve our education and how we think and how we learn. And I think this is an issue with a lot of students, is that a lot of students go through school and they're bombarded with so much information, but they never feel like they learned anything. And I think the problem, or the reason why that's the case, is that they never use the subconscious more efficiently to be able to learn and develop new skills that can help them become marketable in the marketplace. And I think if we learn how to use subconscious more, again, we're going to explore this in future lectures, I think this can help us become better students and thinkers and entrepreneurs. So if you like this lecture, I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also encourage you to visit my website at teachlyuniversity.com, where you can view all my lectures and blogs, and you can also subscribe to my email list so you can get the latest updates on my lectures and future courses. So thanks so much for listening to this lecture, and I'll see you next time.